I've got this big dent in the hood of my 62 Catalina. Now, I'm no professional body guy, but even I know that you shouldn't fill a dent this deep with body filler. But I can't access the back of the dent to pull it out, and I don't own many professional auto body tools like a stud puller. But I saw this technique from what I assume was an actual professional body man that didn't require the use of really any special tools and allowed you to remove the dent from the front. It's already got a big ugly dent. What's the worst that can happen? Let's give it a shot. What's up, guys? I'm Jeremy. Welcome back to Catfish Motorsports. Now, this is my 62 Catalina, and I have some ambitions of painting it over the winter. So I've been slowly going around and doing little bits of body work here and there. We're not going to make it perfect. This is a garage paint job, so that's not going to be perfect on its own. Perfect professional paint jobs are an art. You're not going to get there overnight. However, with available cheap tools today and budget paints that are actually really good, you can go a long way towards making a ratty car look a whole heck of a lot better. Just have realistic expectations. But dents like this that are, 3/8 of an inch, maybe almost a ½ inch deep, those are too big to ignore. We have to address stuff like that if we want it to look reasonable. Problem is, I can't access the back of this dent. So the obvious solution of hammering it out from the back isn't available to us. I was doom scrolling on Instagram, like I'm sure a lot of you guys do, and I saw a little short video of a guy repairing a dent in a cab corner. He used a technique that is reminiscent of some old school stuff with screw-in stud pullers, but I had never quite seen this one used, and I thought, I'm gonna try that on here. Now, he wasn't using any special tools. It was stuff that I have laying around, and you probably do too. So what do you need? You need a drill, a block of wood, a screw, and then a hammer, a tire iron, just something that has a claw hook on the back that like you would remove a nail with. Now, the only kind of special tool that I would recommend you have for this job is a MIG welder, something that you could fill the holes that we're gonna drill in with metal. Now, if you don't have those, hey, you do what you gotta do. You could just use filler straight over the holes afterwards, fiberglass, whatever. That's your decision. Don't put that evil on me. I'm not telling you to do it. You be as hacky as you need to be. But if you have a MIG welder, that will make the cleanup afterwards easier. Now, here's our dent. Now, ultimately, we will use some filler on this, but I just don't want to use 3/8 of an inch of filler. Like, even I'm not that hacky. So our whole goal is to get this to a more reasonable level to where we can just use some body filler to skim over the top and fill an 1/8 inch or hopefully less as the body filler recommends. So here's our dent. Earlier, I did go in here and hammer this section a little bit flat. It was bulged way out, so I just took a body hammer and tapped that in to where it was a lot closer to level throughout. It's not perfect. We can see this is a pretty nasty dent, but that got us started. So we took our drill with my very carefully selected drill bit that I got from my super organized drill bit drawer. It's not like I just grabbed one that I thought would work or anything. And we drilled some holes in our dent. Now, it might be tempting to just drill straight down the middle, but I'm gonna recommend you don't do that. If you ever watch like paintless dent repair videos, they always work from the outside of big dents and then work to the middle. So that's what we're gonna do here. So now we've got our screw, hand screwdriver, also selected from my super organized hardware drawer. I kind of wish it was a little bit longer, but it's what I have at the moment. I could dig for another one if I need to. So starting from the outside, we're gonna screw this in. It doesn't need to go super deep or anything. You just need to make sure it gets past the tip of the screw so you're in the fattest part of the screw. And then we're gonna try to pull it out. Got our wood in place, and let's just try to pull this out. Oh, that's coming out for sure. That definitely raised up. We might be onto something here, boys and girls. And I'm sure there's some body guys out there going, yeah, we've been doing that for like 80 years, idiot. But I've never done this before, and this worked pretty good, just with some nonsense that I had laying around. Now, quick note, the goal here is not to pull it all the way out, because remember, this wouldn't be perfect if we did that. We are still gonna use body filler on this. So you do still want it to actually be a low point. We just only want it to be about an 1/8 of an inch low point, not a ½ an inch low point. So I'm gonna move the screw around a little bit to different spots and then continue pulling it out slowly. So look, I'm not gonna claim that this is beautiful or anything like that, but I know how huge that dent was. So even though I Swiss cheesed it, I know that I can just zap MIG weld back into that, grind it all flat, and then use a little bit of filler And it's just so much shallower now compared to where it was. It actually is probably too high in a couple places. I'll have to hammer it back down slightly. You know, I will say too that if I had thought about this more, there's probably some places that I would have more strategically drilled the holes to start with, and we might have been able to get away with, you know, 4 or 5 rather than, what do I have, 9 holes there now. We might have been able to do it with a few less. But this is the first time I've ever done this, and I'm pretty pleased with these results here. I mean, compared to what it was before, our body line here lines up now, even though it's got that one bad part of the dent still left there. Compared to where it was before, that's great. So now that our dent is less denty, I'm gonna zap this down, try a couple different tools of sanding, flap disc, file sander, whatever, see what works, get this knocked down so the paint's off. Hi, Badger. Badger would like to assist. He hated this dent. He complained about it all the time. Anyway, we'll knock the paint off of this, so then when I come in with my MIG welder, I can make connection to it and we can zap these holes all closed. Badger, go get your safety glasses. You can't be in here with sparks flying. You'll get hurt. Silly dog, you gotta protect your eyes. Okay, so it's been a little more of an adventure than I had hoped with the welding. We had some burn through issues. I'm not the world's best MIG welder, and this is, you know, 60-year-old metal. And it was kind of thin. Maybe it's already thin in that location. Maybe it was because I had to grind down on it to clean it off. But either way, we've MIG'd up the last few of the holes that I had. And I'm gonna show you a little tool that I like to use for this. You don't need it, you can keep using a flap disc, but there's this little file grinder that I like quite a bit for finish grinding on stuff like this. This little guy's pretty cool, relatively affordable. I think it was like $100. Hey, it might not be professional, but I never said I was professional, but that is way better than it was before. And now that this is filled in, I could even go back and drill another hole right there and pull that out a little bit further. But regardless, we don't have a 3/8 of an inch dent there anymore. Now we have more like a 1/8 of an inch dent, which we can easily fill over, thus bringing us closer to our goal. I did grind on this a touch more to make it flatter, because I'm not going to use filler immediately on this because I've got some other spots and I kind of want to do them all at once. I don't want this to rust because I am still driving it around, you know, and I might even not get to painting it this winter. It might not be till next spring. So we're going to throw some just rattle can primer on there, protect it from corrosion. Thanks for watching, everyone. Badger is thrilled that his car doesn't have a big dent in the hood anymore. Maybe you watched that and said, man, that guy's a hack, I'm never doing that. Maybe you looked at that and said, hey, that would totally work for me. Either way, I hope you were entertained. We'll see you next time.